Hello everyone. Today I'm going to watch The Visit. M. Night Shyamalan directed it. So, well, believe it or not, I've only seen one M. Night Shyamalan film. And it's probably considered the worst M. Night Shyamalan film. So, in my point of view, I've actually started with the bottom of his filmography. So that way, all his other films will be an improvement. I have nowhere to go but up. So the worst film I saw by him, and the only film I saw by him, is the worst adaptation I've ever seen, also known as The Last Airbender. Oh my god, did he butcher the original show. But no, I'm not here to talk about The Last Airbender. I'm here to talk about the Visit. The only thing I've heard from this is it's actually a good film. I think it's a horror film. I'm under the impression it's a horror film, but for some reason, I pull up the original recording and of the TV off the TV, and the rating system, it says rated PG. And I'm like, is this the right film? Because last time I checked, there's not many horror films that are rated PG. So that's gonna be interesting to watch. I know it's like kids go over to stay over at grandma/grandpa's house, and apparently they're holding some sort of secrets or something horrible, terrifying. And since it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, even though I've only seen one other film by him, which doesn't really include a twist, but I do know the director is known for twists, and unfortunately, I believe most of his filmography has already been spoiled for me, unfortunately. So eventually, I'm kind of hoping to watch his other films. I may not be able to watch it in the theaters and that. So that's why I kind of was interested in seeing The Visit when it came out, but I never got a chance. But tomorrow, which when this comes out will be today, I'll be going to go see Split, his new film. And apparently, from what I heard, from this film to this film, from what I've heard, from The Visit to Split, this is really the start of his comeback after making so many disappointing films. I think will be a really good word to describe it. So let me see if it's actually a good film, and I'm quite excited to see it. Technically, I should be watching his other films first and then watching his newer films. I really wanted to watch a different film that I heard was good by him, and then go see Split tomorrow and see if it's really good. So that way I have something good to compare to, because it's kind of hard comparing a good film by someone. The only other film you've seen by that person is one of the worst films of all time. So I'm really excited to, well, I shouldn't really be comparing, because I'm sure they're two totally different films. Or are they? I don't know. Knowing M. Night Shyamalan, there's a twist. And the only surprises would be if there wasn't a twist. So, here we go. Time to watch The Visit. I just watched The Visit. M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. And it was, without getting into spoilers, it was a decent take on sort of found footage film. The daughter is filming a documentary about her mother, and the whole thing is shot from the point of view of her cameras. going into it, because I knew it was an M. Night Shyamalan film, I always heard, he's very known for twists, and there's been various jokes. It was like, ooh, what a twist and all that. So going into it, I didn't really want to think about the twist, but at the same time, I was like, okay, maybe I should approach this movie like a mystery, like just see if you can figure out the twist as the movie's happening, or like look at it like a murder mystery type novel or whatever, where it's like look at the pieces, try and figure it out as it's happening, and it was weird because I really like from the first night. It wasn't until the first night where it really drew me in, because I was like, okay, so this is very weird and kind of scary. I want to see what the cause is. I want to see what the problem is. I want to see where this is going to go. I felt it was good, but the problem is by the time I got to the end of it, I already developed my own theory on what the twist is and all that, and it got to the point where I was overthinking the movie, and I was so wrapped up into it's like, okay, what what is causing this? Is it like, are they just crazy, or is it like aliens, or is it like the land is built on Indian burial ground, and it's like I'm trying to figure out this whole thing and backstory and everything and all the pieces that they're slowly revealing throughout the film. And I got to the point where I was overthinking it so much that when the ending did happen, I was like, oh, okay. Now I have to go into spoilers. So, spoiler warning for the rest of the video. Yeah, so my theory was, and I developed this theory, I thought about it once when the conductor on the train, he was like, oh, I used to be an actor, or something like that, and then I thought, I'm like, maybe this movie is supposed to be, maybe it's an amateur film, like in the sense that the characters are actually making the film. But I didn't really fully develop that idea until a couple of days later in the film timeline. Somebody came to the door, and he also mentioned being an actor, and I'm like, that's very peculiar. It's almost like, so I was thinking the twist was gonna be is that the daughter and the son had a brilliant. They both collaborated on the idea of, hey, let's make an indie horror film, because nobody would expect two kids to make a horror film. I thought, because up to a certain point, I'm like, okay, this is all can be planned out and staged. The way that it was edited and everything, I'm like, yes, two kids can pull off a film like this. And I'm like, okay, so they got the grandparents in on it, and it's like, and obviously the grandparents own the property, so, I mean, there's your filming location right there. I really thought, I'm like, hey, this could be, M. Night Shyamalan could be doing a film about kids making a horror film, but dressing it up that the kids were smart enough that the script for their horror film was them making a documentary, and it turns into a horror film, but they're acting like, oh, they don't know what's happening. And once again, you can see where I was really overthinking my own theory. And so when the ending came along, and I mean the first sort of twist to the film is like, which is sort of a classic twist of, oh, they're not who they appear to be, and that's the two grandparents. They apparently, the mother confirmed that they are not who they say they are. And I was like, okay, that's a simple little twist. Something that I was kind of thinking of, but I never really addressed, because it's like, you see at the beginning, like for example, the mother put them on the train takes them away, the mother never interacted with the parents. Apparently the mother never showed them pictures of what they look like, hence why they were at the train station waiting with the sign with their names on it. I was still, even at that point, I was thinking, I'm like, oh, this could all be in their script, the character's script for their horror film that they're making, and dressing it up as if it was real. And like even later on, the only time where I thought, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not they're not making a fake horror film, was with the hanging scene and the stabbing scene in the bed. Otherwise, the whole film could have been done by those kids, with a few help from their parents and grandparents. I was kind of disappointed in the sense that I'm like, oh, okay, so my theory's not true, and my theory ended up being I felt it was a slightly better idea for the film and where it would go. But I did like the way it did ended. What really kills the suspense for the film is that problem with found footage films is that somebody, after the whole filming took place and the event happened, somebody took the time to put the footage together, to edit it, to piece it together, chose what to cut out, what not to cut out. The problem with the found footage films is, somebody, like in this case for The Visit, I knew at least the daughter would have been safe for her to edit the footage and put it together. So I felt no danger there. Even the son, I'm like, there's no way they're actually gonna kill off one of these kids. So so when I stopped thinking it was them making a horror film, and I was treating it as, oh, okay, so it is an actual, they're in danger and all that. That's when the problem with the found footage came in, because I didn't feel any danger, or like I did feel suspense and I felt terror, like especially like just the way it was shot and you're watching it and the camera's moving around in the basement, or when they were playing hide and go seek under the house. It was very it was a bit terrifying. Like, in all honesty, it was terrifying. Not like absolute edge of seat terror, but it did, my heart was a little bit racing, and not that much. I mean, I felt overall the whole experience of the film, it was decent. It was a decent horror film. It wasn't a good horror film, it wasn't a bad horror film. It was just decent. It was I guess, because another thing, right now with M. Night Shyamalan's career, the only other film I have to compare The Visit to that he made and directed was The Last Airbender. So, compared to The Last Airbender, this was a really good film. It had me very interested in what the backstory was going to be, where it was going to go in that, how it was going to end and all that. And I loved, because she did mention, because she mentions early on when she was editing her that how she was going to use the sort of happy music to contrast with the dramatic moments of the film, and then they play the music at certain parts through the film, especially at the ending, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. This is. I mean, it was good acting overall. I mean, the people who played the grandparents did a really good job, because, and the filmmakers did a really good job of making them, move around faster and stuff like that, and stuff that's like, make it really odd that it's like they're not just old people, there might be something more to them. And then the kids were good to watch. They weren't totally cheesy. I mean, the brother was a little cringeworthy with the whole him doing the rapping, and and it was like getting past the first like I think 5 or 10 minutes of the film with them getting to the parents. Like I was sort of hard. I sort of had a hard time getting into the story in that sense, but after the first night, I was like, okay, I'm really invested. I want to know what's gonna happen and all that. So yeah, it was a decent film. I went into it overthinking too much, so I'm definitely not gonna do that with the next M. Night Shyamalan film, which I'm seeing when this is uploaded. I'm seeing it that day, and that is Split. And I actually really can't wait to watch that film. For now, I just want to say The Visit was a really decent, low-budget horror film. I'm surprised it was on TV that was rated PG, because I mean you do have some mild swearing, and you do have nudity in the sense of like butts, and you do have a bit of blood and like stabbing, but overall I was really surprised it's rated PG on TV. That at the very least should have been rated PG-13, but even then that's debatable. But I also want to just say about the film is that the title cards, where it's like Monday morning or the next day or whatever, it was like Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, it really reminded me of The Shining, and especially with the blood red text. I mean, I know in The Shining it wasn't blood red, but it just, for some reason, with the snow and the isolation and the Monday morning, I was like, yeah, it really felt like The Shining. It kind of felt like M. Night Shyamalan was like, okay, I like the Paranormal Activity movies. I don't want to make a Paranormal Activity movie. I want to make sort of my own little found footage type movie, inspired by Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch. That's what the film sort of felt. It felt like it was like I really enjoyed these films. I'm gonna make my own little version. My own little twisted version, I should say. Twist. Oh, I really like the switch of the end credits, because it first does the little documentary. The brother really wanted to do a little rap for the end credits, and that was cringy again. And then it did like a really weird transition, and it was like all of a sudden it's like this most eerie music, and I was like, I really liked that, because it went from like, it was like hip hop rap, and then all of a sudden it's like the most eerie Twilight Zone type modern weird old, I don't know what it was, but it sounded really cool. And then it was a really weird editing with you see pictures of the places and that, and I thought that was really neat. Another thing is I really love the built up humor, especially with the brother, and he was like, oh, I'm thinking for swearing now I will say like modern pop stars or celebrities. And I love how he says that he's like, I'm gonna try it like that, so, instead of swearing. And then later on, whenever he says a celebrity name, it made me really laugh. I really enjoyed that setup. So actually, if I want to mention something, I felt the script was pretty strong, despite it being found footage and very cheesy, cringeworthy sort of style. Sort of another problem with having it's like children filming this documentary and stumbling upon this and all this horrific event and recording it, is that the director has a really good safe point, because it's like, if you didn't like the film or you thought it was awful, he could just turn around and just say, well, that's the way the film was meant to be, because that's their kids documenting it. It's not supposed to be an Oscar-winning documentary or / film. So, I mean, the director could fall back on that if the film didn't do well. But from what I heard, it did well, and it was critically praised. So, Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, and you'll see what I'll watch next.